Hey traders, welcome back to another market update. My name is Nick, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at the currency market, see what's going on, and talk all about Forex. So let's get started here with Euro USD because there's something interesting going on with the technicals here. You can see that the previous level of support that we talked about previously on stream is that we talked about this level here, right, as a potential bullish zone. And we did not actually see that level hold for long. We did get the initial bounce here back to this trend line as we talked about, but then price started to fall. This is where things got interesting. As we talked about on the last market update, I mentioned that I think that there's a pretty good chance we break through this level as we have this downward trend line that I've left on from last time. And you can see we did in fact break underneath and close underneath the significant level of support now becomes potential resistance. And that's where I want to go with this. I think it's possible if we do see a retest of this area, we could see continuation. My big target here and where I think Euro USD will go, this is my personal opinion of course, is back down to the lows here of 1.0895, right? That's something that I'll be watching to see if we can get that continuation push down to that next level on Euro USD. Next up is GBP USD. Let's talk about this pair. You can see we got a little bit of a mess from last time, but basically we did have our wedge formation going back and forth. Price consolidated, broke out and faked out, right? Came down and now looks like it actually wants to get bearish. But if we go from the horizontal support level, if we just kind of clear this up for a second, you can see that we have this zone here, right? Price is currently testing this level of support. You can see support, 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 and resistance on the other side. So currently we're testing that. If price decides to break through that level strongly, to me that's very, very bearish, but until that happens, I'm still not necessarily convinced that this is going to be a huge slide to the downside. I'd wait to see some sort of breakthrough on this level. If we get something like this, if we get a nice red candle that breaks that structure, I think that there's room to potentially continue downwards on GBP USD. Next up is going to be USD JPY, and what you can see here is that price, again, still back and forth on this pair. And as I mentioned last time, we're kind of just also oscillating between these major 2 points, the 110.26 and the 108.56 level here. I think that price may want to come back and retest, and there's one scenario that I like on the bullish case if we see it happen. Let's say we get a nice little push to the upside here and we break through structure. I like the idea of looking for the retest and getting long on the continuation. Even better than that would be a bigger, longer term move such as this. If we get a nice breakthrough and then we get a retest of this line, this trend line really, if we get something like this going, right? If we trend line the last two moves and we draw a trend line there could be a nice little confirmation or confluence between this level of support and this level of trend line support. Just something to think about there on dollar yen, something I'll be personally watching in my own trading. XAU USD, you can see still holding this trend line very nicely, and really my opinion here is that if we come down to that level, there might actually be a nice little trading setup for the continuation there on XAU USD. But until that, I don't have a super big opinion on this pair. It does look like price is kind of just consolidating and deciding where it wants to go next. If we shoot downwards, I think there might be some support in this area here along the trend line. And if we break higher, then of course, the major question would be, can we get past that recent structure high right around that 1600 level that we recently traded at? So we'll see there on XAU USD. Now here on Brent crude, this is interesting because we did in fact break underneath this level, and my bias remains that I think we could see a move down here. Now if you remember from last video update here, we talked about the idea that price could retest this on the way down, right? Retest this recent little shelf here, find resistance and shoot down. You can see right now that that's kind of already what's happened. We didn't quite make it to the black line that we drew last time, but you can see price did make an effort to rise and ultimately fell, right? A lot of times they call this a dead cat bounce. This is a very simple concept. It's when you have so much momentum, a very shallow retracement instantly gets damaged, it gets overtaken by sellers, right? Next up, let's take a look at WTI crude. Gonna look very similar most likely. You can see there it is, even better, we can see it right there, right? Price broke through, we had a nice little shallow retracement before sellers look like they want to take over. If we break back down underneath the lows, you might see an influx of selling underneath, right? As sellers are more confident and they say, okay, you know what? It's a pretty good chance that we continue lower. Same with Brent crude. I think that the big level to watch would be the 43.18, this recent structure low here. If I back out on the screen, you can hopefully see it right around there, okay? Next up is Euro GBP. Euro GBP still kind of retesting and holding this range for the time being. Remember, we had this downtrend structure, right? when we broke through, we retested here, right? Still holding that move. And the big thing for me right now watching this pair is potential idea of, okay, are we gonna break higher? And if we get to this point, can we break and continue? Because if so, there might actually be a counter trend here that has some validity. But until we see that, I'm still just waiting on euro pound. Dollar Swiss is next. You can see we are actually up to the 38.2, which is interesting. We did get a nice little retracement there off of the lows. And now the big question becomes, can we hold the 38.2? Really, we retested it twice here, right? We had some resistance structure here. Can we make the break back down? Now, the overall trend would probably argue that we could, right? We do have some downward structure, but there's also, remember, kind of in this longer term game, we have the potential to retest something like that 61.8 level that I mentioned, which I like even better as a sell zone, just because we have some structure there. In the pink there, we also have that downward trend line, and it looks like a little bit deeper of a retracement, might be a little bit better of an entry in my opinion. Next up is going to be AUD USD. This is our last one, and really interesting here. As we talked about, I mentioned that my bias here on AUD USD has been bearish and that I think we could see breaks through and continuations down, right? Now we are seeing price head back south. You can see we had a very shallow retracement before sellers stepped in and pushed it down. Now, in my opinion, if we see the break, then there's probably some room for bearishness continued, right? Another break through these lows could push AUD USD to slip another level. We'll see what ends up happening there, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you got something out of today's video, and we'll see you guys back next time.